Hi everyone, this is Melissa, and I am going to discuss modest apparel and what the Bible has to say about that which pertaineth to a man in terms of pants wearing. As I mentioned in my last video, my intro video, how certain Christians believe that a woman should not wear pants because they claim it's an abomination, and they base that off of, let's go into the scripture here, Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, which reads, "The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garments, for all that do so are an abomination unto the Lord thy God." And so many use that scripture to say that it's wrong for a woman to wear pants. There's also another scripture in 1 Timothy that I'm going to talk about, but I may have to do that in the second part. So this part will just cover Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. First of all, with that scripture, we have to be mindful that this was written in a time in the Old Testament, in a time where people were, as I mentioned before, dressed in similar type of attire. So we have to, when we look at the scripture, we have to not just read one verse and just create a whole doctrine and go around, throwing it around like that. We have to look at the historical theme and the context of that scripture and what God was talking about, and what was he addressing at that time specifically with the people. And again, I mentioned that back then people wore similar type of attire. The men wore the same type of clothing that the women wear, and you can do research and find that out easily. That they wore something called like a tunic or so in the Old Testament, and that's how they dressed. So there wasn't much of a distinction or separation in terms of dressing or garments back in that time. So so that case right there, that needs to be further studied, and it's pretty obvious because we all know, we all see pictures, and we'll watch movies of Jesus Christ and Nazareth, and you see the type of garment that they wore. The women wore the long tunic type of garments. The men wear the long tunic type of garment, sometimes long sleeve garments with veils, and with sandals. We see that. So if that scripture was being addressed at that certain time, we have to look at what exactly was God referring to when he said that, because they were all dressed alike back then. So, there's some that say, historians that say that, he was specifically, there's translation of certain words in that scripture, and they came to the determination that, when he was talking about men back then, he was probably talking about men of war. They would wear different armors for war, and strong men that would pertain to, men of war. So he was forbidding women to wear that type of garment that would distinct her being like a man, a strong man, or take on that resemblance of a man, and the men in terms not to wear that which pertains to a woman. And but it also, in Deuteronomy, God was also addressing men trying to adorn themselves as women, maybe even cross-dressing, and women adorning themselves with the intention of looking like a man. In those days, men and women wore the same type of attire again. Okay, so, and even the holy men, those were holy men whom God called. So we're going to say that they're an abomination. Were their wives, sisters, and daughters abomination? And we think about abomination to God, we think about like homosexuality. And so we can say that, and say that scripture was him addressing the fact that men was attempting to wear garments with the intention to be a woman, and the woman was wearing a man's garment with the intention of being a man, to take the role of a man, like she wanted to act like a man, be a man, and that was forbidden, and that was an abomination. Okay, so it's all about her intentions when you're putting on that type of wear. And some say that historically pants was only to be worn by men and created for man, but so was t-shirts, so was work boots, so was caps and hats and things like that. So if you're going to go say that a certain type of article of clothing is forbidden by the Bible, specifically pants, that the Bible actually addressed pants is forbidden, then you have to back it up with scriptural reference. And so, again, so God was talking about something specific that was being done intentionally among the men and women, either a type of garment array that directly distinguished both sexes were being crossed, not the actual cut of the garment. Like pants is today, one should do a study on who was the first to wear pants, and if that specific argument is directly disproved, biblically, there's biblical evidence that can back up your claim. Okay, if a woman is wearing pants that with her heart's intention of wanting to be like a man or take on the role of a man, then this is an abomination, and vice versa of a man who wants to wear dress skirt to be a woman. So Deuteronomy should not be used to condemn pants wearing